27th, 2015, 6:07. Our invocation will be by Henrietta.
We bow our head in prayer, please. Oh, dear Father, we ask you for your wisdom, your guidance, and understanding. As we meet today to talk about the future of Floresville, we ask you to give us the patience, the understanding, and to do the things that we need to do to make this happen. These things and other things we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you. Establish a quorum, Councilman Tejada, Councilman Nieto, Councilman Guerrero, and Councilman Rodriguez. You could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
This time I'd like to ask if there's any citizens' comments before we get started. If not, Connie?
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm here to present the property tax rate for the tax year 2015. And as we publicize on the local newspaper, the city manager and myself have proposed to not increase the tax rate and keep the preceding year's tax rate, which is at 0.3252. As you can see in this form, the effective tax rate that has been calculated by the appraisal district, it's 0.3161, and the rollback tax rate is at 0.2634. Do you have any questions on that? I would like to proceed to the next worksheet, and this will give us the M&O and the INS for the tax year with the current tax rate of 0.3252. If you can see, the current rate will give us a revenue due to new properties and increase on assessed value of $199,672, which is needed to supplement the payment for the restructuring bond. If the rollback is adopted, that will give us only a revenue of $28,077, which will not be enough to pay the bond and also supplement the operating budget for the city and for the 4A. The effective tax rate, which is at 0.3161, will give us a revenue of $174,405, which is still, as you can see, will not be still enough. If you have a home of $100,000 for the tax rate on 2016 assessed rate, the tax will increase $325 total.
No,
I want to make sure
it's not gonna increase.
that's the increase.
It'll increase $325?
No. Tax rate would be the same from last year.
Tax rate will be the same, yes.
The value there.
There's no increase. If you do the rollback, it will be a minus $62, and if you adopt the effective tax rate, it will be a minus $9.
Is there an increase from our budget from last year?
Absolutely. We're negotiating right now the collective bargaining for the police department, and there is a required percentage of increase on their salaries. And also, if you adopt a raise for the employee body of the city, that will increase the budget.
And then there's also been a decrease in the sales.
In the sales tax. And I don't think it's gonna be a major decrease. What it will probably be is that it's gonna flatline for this year. This is not gonna be an increase or a major decrease. But the budget will be increased by the supplemental payment for the 4A Civic Center payment.
Is it true that you found a problem in the way the sales has been allocated?
I did not find a problem. I was trying to explain the reason why we are not trying to increase the rate. But I cannot speak and say they calculated the rate on prior years incorrectly because I don't know the situation of the city back then. What it is true is, and I have these supplemental pages here, is that this is presented on the budget every year. It's a historical tax rate worksheet. And what we went ahead and we colored the years by different colors, stating that the rate was not increased from 2001 to 2012. It was kept at a flat line of 0.3227, regardless of the calculation. I really don't believe that that rate didn't fluctuate at one point within the 10 years. I'm not saying that was incorrect, but what was adopted, it was a flat line. On the subsequent years, the tax rate fluctuated. It went down in one year, it went up on another year. The truth is that for the last 2 years, it's been a consistent rate. And it will give us the revenue that the city needs to get out of the deficit from the insolvency plan. Also, I went ahead and included a worksheet that is also on the budget book every year. And this reflects the taxable assessed value by the appraisal office and the change in the value from one year to another. Do you have any questions on any of these sheets?
This tax rate that we're proposing, it's pretty much the bare minimum as to what.
If I recall correctly, when we were trying to negotiate the restructuring of the bank, the fear of the council was because the debt is going to increase, the tax rate is going to also increase. And we were looking at a minimum increase, but because we have been very consistent on our debt payments, there was some debt that was paid off. So that offset. So it is not the bare minimum, but it is the minimum that you need so you can go ahead and do the operations of the city and the civic center. And the reason why I keep on bringing up the civic center is because the city is subsidizing the operating expenses for the civic center.
How can we fix that?
We cannot fix it until we pay off the debt. And the reason for that is because we are actually using the entire amount of money that they collect on sales tax. That could be used for operations. We're using it to pay the debt.
It can also generate revenue.
It generates revenue, but it's not enough. Absolutely. If there's no more questions, and then that completes my presentation of the tax rate.
One question. I know you weren't here in 2010, but why is there, you know why there was such a difference in the change in 2010?
You're talking about the taxable assessed value? I don't know, Henrietta and I were trying to review these sheets so that way we could answer these questions. But it's like I said, I cannot speak of what happened back then. But I believe I was talking to one of you and they said that There was a major increase of 31,000 at one point, 31 million. Yes, that's in 2010, 31 million in assessed values, and then the appraisal readjusted that. But those assessed values are not done by the city. Those are done by the appraisal office. Yes. So what went on there, I don't know. And I don't have any physical evidence, so I can explain that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no other questions. This concludes the public hearing.
What about citizen comment?
It was at the beginning.
We asked at the beginning for citizen comments,
You wait,
and
No.
she asked as she was going along if anybody had any questions.
no, she was referring to the council. The citizen's comment was up there. We've had the public hearing. There should be a citizen's comment allowed after her
Did
presentation.
you have something to say, Mr. Miller? Go
Yes, I
ahead.
did. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'd like to begin, as I begin, I'd like to commend our city manager, Mrs. Henrietta Turner, and our comptroller, Ms. Connie Moreno, for their continued efforts in bringing the city of Floresville's finances forward. Without their efforts, I cannot imagine where our city would be. I attended the August 10th, 2015 budget workshop where this handout was provided, similar to your first slide. It had 2 attached pages on it. On page 3, it totals the city's debt service for 2014-2015 as $436,115.79. Then on page 2, it totals the debt service for the city of Floresville for the 2015-16 fiscal year as $797,195.54, but then backs out $400,000 for Civic Center sales tax debt contribution and $115,891.60 as the 4B's debt contribution, leaving the city's net total debt at $281,303.94, similar to the slide. As I understand it, these debt service totals are supplied to the Wilson County Appraisal District and used to calculate the INS portion of the property tax, correct? Property tax rate. Am I understanding that correctly? But the debt service in 2014-2015, that $436,000, was not reduced by any Civic Center or 4B debt contribution. That total debt service, including the debt service of the Event Center and the Economic Development Corporation, was used to calculate the INS portion of the property tax this past year. Do I understand that correctly? So in 2014-2015, we, the taxpayers, paid property tax and sales tax on the same debt service. Having done a little research at the appraisal district, Wilson County Appraisal District, it appears the debt service, or the loans that we made on the Event Center and the loans that the Economic Development Corporation have made that were guaranteed and ultimately paid with sales tax, that we were charged property tax. In my mind, that's being double taxed. And if we go back to 2009, and it looks like we have been double taxed since 2009, that totals in excess of $1 million in double taxation. Again, I'd like to commend our comptroller for identifying this error and correcting the city's accounting. But now, with the correct debt service being utilized in our tax rate calculations, the proposed tax rate is 22% above a fair tax rate, or what the Texas legislature calls a rollback rate. And any tax rate adopted above this fair tax rate can trigger a rollback election. I, as a business owner, resident, and taxpayer of the city of Floresville, after this research, feel that I have been misled as to the true financial condition of our city. What guarantees do we, the citizens, have, the taxpayers have? What long-term management plans are being implemented with this proposed tax rate that Ms. Moreno and the city manager have said are needed so that the city can supplement the debt of the event center and so that the city can supplement the operation costs of the event center? That next year, those numbers aren't going to be even more. Clearly, we're not pulling in enough revenue to even pay the debt of the event center. When we're projecting $400,000 worth of sales tax revenue from the 4A Corporation for next year, which is an 18.7% increase over this year, that may or may not be realized, but we've assumed an excess of a $500,000 payment that we have to supplement the maintenance and operation costs of the event center. If we're going to support a tax rate that is 22% above a fair tax rate, and clearly we've been misled as to what we've been paying taxes for, what's going to be different this year? What's going to be different next year so that we don't have to supplement the event center with property taxes? That's the information I'd like from the council. Thank you.
Is there any other citizen comments?
Ms. Connie, would that mean that we would have to adjust the budget if all that information is correct?
This is a public hearing.
Am I at the right time, I should want to talk about the
It's
budget?
not a discussion, next week, or making decisions to
Huh?
public hearing.
The next hearing.
Next meeting? Huh?
Okay. This ended at 6:26. Now we're going to go on to the public hearing Thursday.
Yeah, we wait till 6:30.
Okay.
Didn't he say here too, to make the same tax rate?